Hello, everyone. It's Tia here,
I'm Kim.
and we for another episode of Mass Off. I almost didn't
Yes,
say that. So today we're talking about intuition versus stories we tell ourselves, and how do we really know the difference? So our quote is, "Listen to the compass of your heart. All you need lies within you." Anne Radmacher. And it's true. It's all within us,
yeah,
but we lose track. It's like,
yeah.
okay, is this my intuition? Is this my heart guiding me? Or is this my mind and all my conditioning telling me or creating a story? So how do we know?
100%. I mean, because when we're little, we really do trust more of our instinct, right? When we're young, we just tune in and trust it. But
Right.
as we grow older and people, our caretakers, our loved ones tell us, no, you're wrong. Or, even we talked once before about in school, if the teacher asks a question and I raise my hand and I get it wrong, if I get the wrong answer, then I'm like, oh, now I'm not going to trust myself so much anymore
Exactly.
because there's that conditioning or possible feeling of being ostracized or whatever. So
Yeah.
I learned to just not trust myself more and more and more
Right.
as time went on. So now, when faced with difficult decisions and sometimes life changing decisions, it's hard to know. It's hard to decide, am I coming from here in my mind, or is it my gut? And I'm being 100% honest and saying, I don't really know the answer. As I'm doing this work and being on this journey, I'm starting to reacclimate with myself, but I'm still trying to find my way. And so
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm always leading with my heart or I'm creating some story.
It's hard to tell. I mean, and I think it's, at least my experience is, it's harder to tell in certain areas, and other areas it's more clear. So I think the areas where it's messy
Yes.
is where we're uncertain and we may not be trusting ourselves, or there's so much conditioning and stories around that. So do you
Which,
notice that you have some that it's really clear, like, oh yeah, that's
yes.
totally my heart, totally intuition. I
Yes.
I don't believe those thoughts anymore.
Well, and I think I shared once before in one of our episodes that when a year ago, when my mom was on life support and she was, in on life support, and I really had to make the decision. First, initially, it was my sister, and then my sister was like, I don't think I can make this decision. And the decision was, after 9 days of being on a ventilator, after she tried to be extubated twice, not sure if I said that right, and she couldn't successfully do it, the next step was that when they tried to take her off the vent, that they were going to do a tracheotomy, and then she could end up being in a nursing home, a skilled nursing home. And this was before we knew about COVID,
Right,
right?
right.
So, like, look at the divine timing in that, number one.
Mm-hmm.
But number two was, I knew in my gut that it was not going to be okay for my mom. Like, it's not what she would want to be having that tracheotomy. I knew how she was in terms of taking care of herself. She didn't have a lot of, care. And I just knew in my heart, it was a knowing that this was the right decision. Was, if she couldn't breathe on her own, then we weren't going to put her back on a ventilator or have her have a tracheotomy. So that was really mostly clear. I mean, there were obviously some times where I questioned myself up until the point, but once the decision was made, I never looked back.
Wow.
And I think that's part of, well, that's part of it, but you have to make the decision. So that's what's so hard.
Wow.
I'm
Right.
wondering if, like, I wonder if when we repeat a pattern or a lesson over and over and over again, because we're not taking an action step or we're not making a decision, if that maybe in some way is like an indicator that you're coming from mind and not from intuition. Because do you know what I'm saying? Like if you have a knowing and you make a decision about something, let's say it's about a relationship, or let's say it's about a job change or a move even.
Mhm.
So if you keep repeating coming back around rather than taking an action or making the decision that quote unquote the universe is wanting you to make, is that an indication that you're not coming from your gut? That's just the thought I'm having. I don't really know the answer. What do you think about?
I think it's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
Because the universe is reminding us, but then we get in our head and we're like, oh, is it telling me to go this path or that path? Which one is it? I'm getting confused. So then I
Yeah.
think we get into overthinking, which only then disconnects us from our heart. So I think the longer we take to make those decisions, the more we convince ourselves of one way or the other, not that's not necessarily connected to our heart. So that makes sense to
Yeah.
me.
And the other thing that comes up for me too, though, is like really, I have been in this place of wanting to be in the moment, right? Just being in the moment and not um, being in the past, letting my past predict my future. So if I'm really in the moment, let's say it's about like a friend or a relationship or someone where I'm like, oh, do I continue to be friends with this person? Do I continue to have this person in my life or not? Sometimes in some moments I'm okay and I'm good, and then other times in other moments I'm not. And then if I start to create the story of,
Right.
oh, this person is this and that, and like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be friends with this person anymore, or I shouldn't have this person in my life, like then I start to go into the storyline. But if I really just stay in the moment, because none of us are perfect, I'm sure even in some moments people are like, I don't want you in my life anymore. Maybe you're driving me nuts, right? So my kids could probably maybe feel that way at times. Who knows?
Sure.
So that's where I started to really question and wonder about that story making versus just if I stay in the moment and I'm in my body and I'm in my heart,
Right.
right? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Totally. And I think too, when we start to go into our stories, then we're looking for things to validate that story. So then we're
Yes.
even further disconnecting from the isness of that moment because we're trying to, not necessarily consciously, but we're trying to corroborate, collaborate our story and make it true.
Yes.
So we start to find things that may be there, but they may not be so much at the forefront. And now
Yeah.
all of a sudden they're bigger and we get attached to them because they are fulfilling the belief system we have now created.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. So then in that case, if I'm doing what you just said, then I am creating a story and I am coming from my mind rather than coming from my heart.
Mm.
Now, sometimes there are some situations with some people and where they're completely abusive, physical abuse or so, and
Mhm.
and I would think those situations, if it were happening to me, and maybe I am also making a presumption here as well to say that that would be pretty clear to me. Like I do know what my stone boundaries are. I would never let a person physically hit me. I would never, you know, I think, yeah, physical abuse, extreme mental, emotional abuse, those kinds of things, I would not, I would have this knowing of like, nope, that's enough. Draw the line. I'm not having you in my life anymore.
Mhm.
But beyond that, it does, from moment to moment, we change, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And we're at a different spot on our journey. And so we know what we know in that moment, but it may not be true if we're thinking of the belief system in the story. And even in abusive situations, I have not experienced it personally, but what I have understood from others who have, you you completely disconnect from your intuition because there's that
Yes.
conditioning and it happens over time. It's not like it's instantaneous. I mean, of course, there are situations where it's instantaneous, but for
Yes.
people who stay and then people like, why did you stay so long? It's because you are, for survival, you disconnect,
Yeah. From the
so
pain.
you don't trust yourself and you're being fed those stories not to trust yourself either, the whole gaslighting and everything. So are we gaslighting ourselves is kind of where I was going to, like, Our
Okay, say more about
intuition
that.
is there, right? So our intuition is telling us, oh, you should take this path, this choice, stay with that friend, not stay with that, whatever it is. And are we gaslighting ourselves with the stories and the, bless you, kitty. um, and I know that's, a big word, but why can't we gaslight ourselves? Oh, no, that's not true. No, that's a good person. They just made a mistake. No, no, don't. What you're thinking isn't necessarily true because you're looking. So it could be the opposite. You're looking for the good in the person when in reality, they shouldn't stay in your life.
They should
Or
not.
what do
Did
you,
you say they should, did you say they should stay in your life or should not?
I'm thinking of a situation where you're like, let's just take a friendship, for example. And the friendship is starting to fade away, but you have years and years and years of connection with this friend. And
Yep.
like they've brought value to your life and whatnot, but you don't, and so you don't want to let go because that's letting go of so much of your past.
Right.
So even if that person has changed and you have changed and you're trying to force feed, put the square peg in the round hole or vice versa, we're convincing ourselves like, no, every 10 times we get together, we have a good conversation. So that's worth keeping. So it's almost like saying your intuition may be saying it's time to let this friendship move on. And your mind is telling you, oh, don't be mean. Stay with them. You still get good in the life with them. And it can be the opposite too. Like you should stay. And your mind is saying, no, really, or you should leave. And wait, now I'm confusing myself.
I know.
The first too many different options.
Yes. No, I got it. The first one you were saying that you should leave, but you were kind of justifying why, stay. All the person, this person has good, they don't mean to do anything. They have good intentions. So you stay beyond the expiration date of the relationship. So there's that, but then there's maybe the other end of the spectrum. I think you were going was, maybe I'm judging too harshly. Maybe I'm making up these stories and really the person is worth keeping in my life and need to stay. And I'm just getting caught up in a story because, oh, I saw this behavior before in the past. And so when I see it again, it's like, oh, okay, here we go again. When we were out to lunch, she monopolized the conversation. And so, oh, she's such a narcissist and she's all about herself. And then I go into a storyline of a huge story. So naturally, if I'm creating that story, naturally, I'm going to bring up some negative feelings or emotions about this person. I'm going to have an aversion to this person when, again, I don't know, is it justifying? Is it not justifying? Because am I perfect? Maybe I don't do that, but maybe I show up some other different way. And so, again, if there are some good times or good moments, it's such a catch-22. So how do you know when it's a knowing and you follow your heart versus like making the decision from your mind?
And I think to complicate it before answering that, because I think it's a process to figure out, there's also the piece of we can be having the story, whether we're aware of it or not, and we're spiritually bypassing. So we may be wanting to get rid of that person or keep that person, but ignore some of the stuff because I don't want to go there because that's a pain point I'm not ready to expand and explore on. We always say, everyone's in our life for a reason, and they mirror back for us where we need to heal or we would not be activated.
Right.
And so it's easier to say, oh, this person is doing X, Y, Z. I don't like it. And there's something wrong with them. When in reality, is it more, oh, okay, if I point the finger at them instead of turning it around, looking at myself, then I'm avoiding and bypassing. So how do you know when to let go? Because you have a lesson to learn and when it truly is an expiration date for that friendship or whatever it is. And it's convoluted. And I think some days it's clear and other days it's not. But
that's the part that's so tricky because some days it's very clear and then some days it's not. And I think, do you keep plugging away until, so it is what it is until it isn't. It is what it is until it isn't
Right.
anymore. So if it's clear some days, not clear, clear, not clear, and that's almost 0 point, right? That's the 0
Right.
point. So that we
Yes.
talked about. So it's like clear, unclear, clear, unclear, the back and forth until you come to,
Yeah.
and it's just
Clear.
is. It's clear.
And is that human conditioning of, I need to have the answer, I need to know now.
Yes.
And so then we start to get critical, and then we overanalyze and overthink and create more stories.
Yes.
So there's that piece too, because just make a decision, right? We get that conditioning. Just make a decision and stick with it. And then when
Because
we
it's frustrating
don't,
to be in
right?
that back and forth. That it's
Mm-hmm.
almost limbo land. It's like, gosh, just one way or another. I don't want to be back and forth. I just want to be clear.
And it isn't always that way.
I know.
So how do we lean in and trust and listen to our intuition? I mean, obviously there's the very obvious way of meditating, right?
Yes.
To create that pause, that present moment, which I think is huge, which you brought up.
Yes.
So what is the present moment today? What is the as is? What is the reality? Yeah. And can you have an objective reality? And I think the only way to have an objective reality of the isness is to get the stories out of our brains.
Yeah, for sure.
And drop in. And so when you feel alignment within you, when you know it's your intuition, like you shared your experience with your mom.
Yeah.
And I can think to others, we don't have to go into a bunch of different examples, but I think the example of whatever it is, when you just know, it's a feeling, at least for me, and I'd love to hear your experience. It's a feeling of complete and utter neutrality, no judgment. And I just feel solid and grounded in my body. It's like an inner stillness that it's like, this is it. And people can oh my goodness, I can't talk today, can bombard me with questions or try to get me to rethink or whatever. And I just know, like, I don't care what anyone says to me. I know. And I'm okay with the consequences of other people being upset with me because it's so solid. So that is how I know I'm in my heart and my heart's leading the way. So how does it show up for you?
Okay. So, and I will share, and I just want to ask, so when you are not solid, and are you then more concerned about what the other person like thinks and says? And is that an indicator that you have more work to do on that particular situation?
Typically, yeah, I'm worried. It may not be that, let's say a person, it may not be that specific person. Like I can take the heat from that person, but I may be worried about another person who could be impacted. We've been using friends, right? So you have this group of friends, or have 3 or 4 friends and you get together for dinner or whatever, and all of a sudden you're not clicking with this one friend, but that's part of the group. So it's like, well, I don't really want to continue the friendship with this person, but I know it's going to affect the other 2 people who we have dinner with together often.
Yes.
So how do you navigate all of a sudden, well, I really don't want to have dinner with the 4 of us. I just want to have dinner with the 3 of us. And so can be that person that you're directly interacting with, or it can be the people who will be influenced by a change.
Yeah. I feel like, well, first of all, I feel like there's so much to this topic, and I feel like we can probably deconstruct and dissect this particular area for a while.
Right.
We'll keep coming back to this. This is not a one and done episode by any means, because it's so convoluted. Number 2, yes, because I did also share once before in an episode, the one friend that I had for 10 years.
Right.
And then when I set a boundary and I spoke up for myself, and she didn't like that I spoke up, and she got very upset with me, became very defensive. And after she yelled at me on the phone and hung up on me, I have never heard from her since.
Right.
And it's been over 3 years, 4 years.
Now, did you have other friends connected?
We did not. So
okay.
that didn't, we did not. It was just, the 2 of us. So that was a clean break in that sense. But when it happened and she didn't call back, or we didn't keep speaking, I never regretted that I spoke up. I didn't regret that the relationship ended because I knew that there was an unhealthiness that had come up that we couldn't move past, that she couldn't move past. So I knew that I was okay. I was totally
Wow.
okay. I've thought of her over the years. I've hoped the best for her. I want to wish her well, but I
Yeah.
never doubted myself and said, "Oh, geez, Kim, why'd you do that?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You ruined a perfectly good friendship. Never. I was very, like you said, I had a knowing.
Hmm.
So, but there are other situations that I'm in or have been in my life where I'm back and forth and back and forth. So, and it's confusing and it's hard and it's frustrating. And I guess the only thing that I can really, from our conversation, maybe come up with in this moment is that there still is work to be done. Just until I'm going to be the ping pong back and
Yeah.
forth until I know. But it is a hard place to be.
I was just going to say, and it's not an easy place to be because we want answers.
Yeah.
And the answer's already there. You just can't access it right now. That's it.
Yeah. And even sometimes when I have some issues with my kids, like I have to be able to take a look and see, what space am I in? You know what I mean? If I'm not in a hard space, if I'm not centered, I'm not grounded,
Right.
then, I may show up with them and then that might trigger them. And then I think it's all like, oh, it's them and whatever. And the relationship isn't going the way I want it to go. But it could very well be me. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Hmm.
whereas I'm thinking it's the other person and I'm trying to decide, should I not spend time with this person anymore? It could very well be my own self that's impacting the moment that then has this domino trickle effect.
Right.
And they show up in a way with me that they're reacting. And then I'm like, what the heck? I don't want you in my, I don't want you in my life. Go away, kids. No, I love you, Ryan and Angela. I do. I love you both. I'm not getting rid of you. But you know what I'm saying?
I
Like
do.
it all depends
Mhm.
on where I'm at. And like,
Totally.
this morning, so, and we'll have to end quickly because I'm in a hotel room and my husband and my son, speaking of which, are going to be coming in very shortly. But I'll just say, like this morning, I went and took a run. I'm in Florida, so that's like really nice. It's nice
Woo.
out. It's so warm. And by the way, I'll just add that it's the first run I did since COVID. While I
Wow.
while I only could do 1 mile, not two, I still was super excited because I was only 1 minute slower off my pace than when I was at my best in the fall and
Wow.
summer. So I was super excited about that. So yes, so
Congratulations.
thank you. But I say all that to say that I was in a really good space. When I came back, I was all in a good mood. But you know what? They, for whatever reason, they had their own energy going on. My
Mm,
husband and my son, maybe they were just a little tired or they had just come from doing who knows what. But
yeah.
see how our energies don't always align. But does that mean
Right.
there's something wrong with them, or that when I'm not in a good space there's something wrong with me and therefore
Mhm.
I should not have them in my life? That's why it gets so
Yes.
confusing.
Yeah. And recognizing the co-creation and all of that. And you can be in a good space doesn't mean they are going to be in a good space or vice versa. But how do we
Yeah.
handle those two different energetic spaces? Because I think there's a little too much language. You hear this going around, if you elevate, those around you will elevate with you.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
I think that's a very dangerous
Yeah.
statement because you're expecting other people to rise up and it's not how it works. At least that's,
No.
you may start attracting people into your life
Yes.
that are there,
Yes.
but that doesn't mean the people who are currently in your life will.
Yes.
So you have
Yeah.
to be so solid after you came back from that run and we're
Yeah.
feeling really good and you're moving again and everything, which is yay, amazing.
Yay. I know. Thank you.
So you could have walked in and let that whole whatever was going on drag you down, but it
Completely.
it sounds like it didn't. You were like, I'm solid, I feel good, I'm
Yeah.
okay. And that's, you could see that I'm not gonna come into it. So you were leading from your heart there
Yes.
because you knew you were okay.
Yeah. And that is the difference. It is really, and so many times in the past, I would read the energy of the people in my life and in the room, and whatever their energy was, it would affect my energy. So if
Yep.
it was, and that's just growing up, like,
Mm-hmm.
in my household, always feeling like I had to walk on eggshells, and,
Right.
and being an empath and super sensitive, I can read a room and it can easily take me down,
Yeah.
my energy level,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not careful.
Right.
So there's so many pieces here, so many pieces to this puzzle, but relationships is our life, right? This is
Right.
what our life is about.
Right. And
So
we don't live on a mountaintop. And
no,
really, we heal in relationship. We heal ourselves in relationship
yeah,
because we can't see our blind spots until someone points it out to us. It's not a knowing necessarily pointing
yeah,
out, it's the mirroring back, like that what you've been talking about. And hopefully we didn't confuse people more, because this
I
is a
know.
confused, it's not like we left you with a, okay, here's how you lead with your heart and your
Yes,
intuition. Because it's the challenge with a lot of these wisdom teachings is it's not do X, do Y, do Z. We can provide
yes,
tools to explore, like we're
yes.
doing in our True
Our
North
true
class.
north. Yes,
But does that mean A makes B happen and C? No, because you have a different relationship with different people,
yeah,
and you're a different, not different person, but your energy is different from moment to moment.
100%.
So it's convoluted. So,
Yeah.
we're kind of leaving you a little in the muck, our
As
listeners, but
yes,
that's
as
the
we
life.
that is it. Yeah, right. That's it. And it is mucky at times. And so
Mhm.
until, as we navigate through, we'll share.
Exactly. And I think
Well,
that's part of the growth and the learning too. And I think for both of our integrity is not to sell you smoke and mirrors that your life's
yeah,
going to be all here, way up in the rainbows, that
right.
there is that part where you're in the mist and the fog and not having a
Yeah.
clue where you're going. But that's the beauty. You learn how to be okay with that.
Yeah. And you're right. And I'm super excited to be doing True North, because this is what we teach. And these are the tools that
Mm-hmm.
we help give to navigate this thing that we're talking about.
Right. So we just have a little more clarity. It's almost like you take, here's another little analogy from the class, the lantern, right? So you're in the
Yes, that's what I was
fog,
thinking. Yep.
the mist of the mountain, and you're in the fog, and you have your little lantern, and all of a sudden you can see just a
Yeah.
little bit clearer, have a deeper understanding of where to go next to start to drop into our
Yep.
hearts more
And not only
and
that, but
more.
okay, so let's just say, and then we can, tie it together. Let's just say that, I do make a decision that comes more from my mind and it's not from my heart. You know what? Okay,
Yes,
it's okay. That's the thing.
exactly.
That's the beauty. It's okay, because
Yep.
there really isn't any decision that I can make that's going to really be that life altering, unless it makes me go 6 feet under. And even then, if I go 6 feet under, I'm still going to be transitioning, and then I'm with the universe. So that still isn't even like the
Right.
worst decision in the world. But it's
Right.
even if I do, it's just an opportunity then
Mm-hmm.
that I have to learn a little bit more.
Right.
So let's say I make the quote wrong decision, and there are no wrong decisions.
No.
They're all opportunities for growth, for learning.
Right.
And so there's the beauty,
Yep.
right? So we want to lead with our hearts, but if we don't and we make a decision and it throws some whatever fire at us, and now so we deal with it.
Right.
We all have the coping skills. We're all capable of navigating and learning through anything.
Right. Right. It's just taking that next step and the next one and the
Yep.
next one, no matter how small. Or even if
And
it's sideways and backwards, then you can
yeah,
take another one forward. I love how you tied that. That's beautiful, beautiful way to really
yeah.
tie it
Thank you.
together.
I know. And what you just said is so key as well. Just taking the next step, right? Glennon Doyle Melton, did I say her name right? She writes about that, just when she was going through her divorce and through her breakdown, she just kept saying, what's the next step? What's the
Right.
next right step? And that is living in the moment. Like, that's the
Exactly.
key. If there is
Mm-hmm.
one real step, tool, whatever, it is just being in the moment. What gets me so messed up is when I'm trying to predict the next 10 steps and I'm trying to
Exactly.
control the next 10 steps.
Mm-hmm. So
That's
you
when
feel better.
so that I feel better. And
Yep.
then for sure I'm here in my head and I'm not in my
Exactly.
heart for sure.
Yep.
So I think that's when you're leading with your heart, it is about living in the moment, one step at
Exactly.
a time.
Perfect.
Wow, look at
Perfect.
that.
Woo!
30 minutes. We did it.
We did it before they got home.
Before they get back
Yay.
from basketball. Yes. So awesome. I think it was an awesome
Yeah.
episode. So thank you so
Oh,
much, everyone, for listening. And you can check out our True North, our Masks Off Facebook community, and, like, subscribe, comment. Just thank you
yeah.
so much for all of your support.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.